How is everybody doing? We are on day 2. Hope everybody enjoyed day 1. Hope it was enlightening. Hope it was inspiring for everybody. And I hope we're doing better after day 1 than we were before day 1. Now, day 2. And day two's lesson is no blaming. We don't blame. Um, we're going to talk about cycles a lot, like perpetual cycles that keep going on and on and on in marriages. And we'll get there soon and we'll discuss the cycle of blaming of what happens. But first, let me tell you a story. There was and the story kind of highlights cycles. There was a couple that was having Shalom Bayit problems, and this was a number of years ago. The wife was in a bookstore and she sees a book on Shalom Bayit. So she goes ahead and she buys the book, and obviously she says, "My husband really could use this book." She takes it and she places it on her husband's pillow. The husband sees the book on his pillow and he says, "What is this for? My wife thinks I need the book." She has the problem, and he goes ahead and he takes a book and he puts it on her pillow to where she looks at it and she puts it back on his pillow, and this perpetual cycle kept going over and over again. That story being analogous for what was really going on in their lives, where each one of them was kind of blaming the other for their problems that they've had. Now let's just go from a Jewish perspective, because in the Torah, in what makes a real person according to Hashem, there's no such thing as blaming. I mean, our rabbis tell us, "En hadavar talui ela bi." The things in my life, the only thing it's dependent on is me. I'm the determining factor. You can't control things around you. You can only control yourself. And sometimes we get in situations and we feel like we're going to try to change everybody else besides ourselves. It's a major tool of the Yetzer Hara. Blaming is a major tool of the Yetzer Hara. So let me explain to you what happens when we blame. When we blame, we cause that our partner gets resentful, rebellious, revengeful, and they retreat. In fact, Dr. John Gutman, who happens to be, he's a religious Jew. He is the foremost, probably one of two or three foremost best marriage therapists, marriage gurus in the world right now. And he says there are four main things, determining factors that he could see in couples that he could say they're getting divorced. It pays for us to know all four, but today we're going to concentrate on one, and that is blaming. He says when couples come in blaming each other, you know something's wrong. And I can tell you just in my own short experience with this, not 90% of the time, not 95% of the time, 100% of the time. When you get a call about Shalom Bayit, when you get a call about people having problems that need a therapist, it's always the same thing. My wife told me this. My wife said this. She refuses to work on anything. And then you go to the wife. Well, he's abusive. He's bad. He refuses to work on it. I tried so many times. You never, ever, ever get a call and say, "Rabbi, listen, I'm a terrible wife. Please help me. My husband's a good man, not perfect, but please help me, Rabbi, be a better wife." You never get a call, "Rabbi, my wife is so good. I'm a terrible husband. Please give me a call." Obviously, when there's problems, you blame the other person. But then the four R's come in: resentment, rebellion, revenge, retreat. What happens is when you point the finger at your spouse, you're causing the other person to resent this. You're causing the other person to almost get rebellious, to get revengeful, or worse, to retreat, to almost stonewall. And what'll happen is, if they'll get revengeful, is they'll start blaming you now. And now you become the one that's being blamed, and now you get revengeful. And then so what do? You blame more. And the cycle, the perpetual cycle of blaming continues on and on. You need something to break the cycle. A few months ago, I had a boy call me up, and he told me that he says, "Yeah, I'm having this issue with my wife." He says every time my wife gets upset at me, she goes crazy. There was no like calm. He says, "I'm a good guy. I, God forbid, never did anything wrong to her. I don't beat her. I don't talk nasty to her. I don't cheat on her. I don't do drugs. I come home. I make a decent living." He says, and if I don't throw out the garbage, she yells and screams at me. He says, if she asks me to go pick my son up from school at 2 o'clock, and at 2:05 I'm still on the road and I'll be there at 2:10, she gets so angry and so mad at me. I don't know what to do. I said, "Did you ever apologize? While your wife is going crazy, did you ever say you're sorry?" He said, "No, why would I say I'm sorry? She's mad at me. She's angry." Obviously, again, we're saying the cycle of blaming. So this guy is in like a resentment, like she's blaming me, she's getting angry at me, she's mad at me. I said, you know what, next time something like that happens, I want you to do me a favor. I want you to apologize. But when you apologize, don't just say, I'm sorry, honey, because that doesn't work. I want you to say, I'm sorry. I know you told me, I know you told me to pick up David at 2 o'clock, and it was inconsiderate of me that I didn't. Meaning, say exactly what you did wrong, and then use the words inconsiderate, or I wasn't caring about you at that moment, and then affirm to her that you're going to try your hardest not to do it in the future. He calls me up 3 days later. He says, Rabbi, that was amazing. I said, what happened? He said, all of a sudden I was talking to my wife, and I looked at my phone. She gets mad when I look at my phone when I'm talking to her, and it is rude, you know? He goes, and she starts yelling at me, you never pay attention to me, you don't like me. And I looked at her and I said, let's say his wife's name was Carol. He said, I looked at her and I said, Carol, I'm sorry. I know I hurt you by being very inconsiderate to you. That wasn't fair and that wasn't right. I really will do it my hardest to not look at my phone again when you're talking. He said, she looked at me and she said, thank you. He broke the cycle of no blame. She was blaming him. She was angry at him. And instead of him going back at her, well, you never say anything normal. Well, it's only one time. What do you care for? I'm in the middle of doing business. I'm sending an email to somebody. How do you think I afford this house? Instead of that, he stopped it with an apology by owning up to what he did wrong. Let us never, ever, ever. This is 100% of Shalom Bayit problems always come along impacted with blame. Jewish people don't blame. The Torah doesn't allow us to look at the other person and say, you're at fault. No. Ena davar talui elabi. This is dependent on me. Day 2's task. So I do hope everybody is doing well. Yesterday's task was to make a list of things, of areas of where you're lacking as a husband. Now, look, 28 days, there's 28 things to do. If you do all of them, you'll be in a much, much, much better spot, like perfect. If you don't do all 28, I mean, I guess it's okay. You try to do as much as you could. And like I said, yes, in the video that was like the intro, like, not everything is relevant to everybody. I get it. But here is one, like yesterday's to me had to be done. You have to make a calculation of where you are. That's called a cheshbon nefesh. We'll have to take stock. We'll have to soul search. You have a gauge in your car that tells you how much gas you have. You take inventory in your store, in your warehouses. You know what you're selling, what's coming in, what's going out. You have a scale in your home to tell you how fat you are. We know everything. So we have to have live statistics on how we're doing in life. And one of that is knowing, how am I doing as a husband? Where can I improve? Right? So yesterday's to me had to be done. Today's doesn't really have to be done. But again, today's lesson was no blaming. And so much of no blaming is taking responsibility for your actions. Like, this is my fault. We're here because it's my issue. And if I ever took care of my issue, we would be in a much better spot. So to that regard, we're going to do something that, again, you don't have to do, but if you do it, you will be gold with your wife. You will be in. This will get you so much cred, it's not even funny. And I want you to do the following thing. You're going to go to your wife and you're going to apologize for either something specifically that you did or something you do perpetually, something you always do. Okay, for instance, let's just say the other day there's a guy, we'll call him David, and David was talking to his wife. He got a little bit heated and he tells his wife, you know what? You're just like your mother. You're as annoying as her. And that was a very nasty thing to say because he knows his wife has issues with her mother. So she's reeling, he's reeling. They went to sleep. He woke up and everything was fine the next day, but things have been uncomfortable since then. You're going to make an apology for that statement, or maybe there's something you perpetually always do. Let's just give an example. Your wife, always tells you when you go outside, take the garbage to the curb, and you always forget, and she gets crazy. Something perpetually that's always done, that's easily corrected. You're going to go to your wife and you're going to give an apology. Now, what is an apology? Saying I'm sorry is worthless. When you give an apology, you have to say you're sorry, You have to say the specific thing you're sorry for, and then you have to like own up to how it made the other person feel emotionally, and then you have to affirm that you're going to try not to have it done in the future. So it has to be specific. It has to be detailed. Can't just be the words "I'm sorry." It has to be detailed. It has to also say how it made the other person feel emotionally, and then there has to be an affirmation you're not going to do it in the future. So this guy, the first guy, David, is going to go to his wife and say, "Honey, I just wanted to tell you, come home randomly out of nowhere. I didn't say, honey, could I talk to you? I want to say something. The other day I told you you are as annoying as your mother. I am sorry for those words. I know that emotionally, it wasn't right to you. It's a disgusting thing to say, and it's very hurtful. It's very demeaning. It's negative on your mother, who I like, and it's negative about you. And it was just a terrible, horrible thing to say. I'm sorry. I promise in the future I will try as hard as I could that when I get angry, I will not say things like that again." Perfect. You are gold. You have to look at you. Why the heck would you just apologize like that? But yeah, I like that. That's good. Keep doing that. Now, the other guy, the garbage situation, same thing. You come home, tell your wife, "Honey, I want to talk to you. I know that I constantly forget every time you ask me to take out the garbage. And I'm sorry. I know this not only causes you an inconvenience that you have to go get it, take the garbage out, which is probably very annoying and very hard for you to do in the middle of your busy day, something you didn't expect. But also, it kind of is inconsiderate and makes it look like whatever you want, I don't care about. And that's certainly not what I want. I'm going to try my hardest in the future to make sure that I do all those things that you ask me to do when you say to do it. You are gold. So the task of the day, maybe the hardest task of all 28 days, but it'll probably be the most effective, and that is apologize randomly to your wife for something you have done, and make the apology, like I said before, specific, talk to how it made the person emotionally feel, and then affirm it's not going to happen in the future.